Hello, transport nerds and fellow planners, and it is with great pleasure that I can say I'm back. Considering I've very rarely missed a weekly review, it felt like a bit of a shock to the system to be away for a couple of weeks. And when it comes to editing and recording, it's been more like a month and a half away. And in that amount of time, there's been no shortage of things to happen. So let's dive into it. For starters, there's the messy background behind me. Yes, there are a few boxes that need to find some new homes, but the walls also look a bit different. And for the record, this shade of greyish green has to go. If you followed the channel for a while, you would know that I've moved from Brisbane to Newcastle and then on to Parkes. And as seems to be an almost annual tradition, I've moved again. This time, I haven't moved quite as far, but I now call Orange home. And this time, I've got a good chance of breaking the approximately annual moving cycle. See the nasty grey-green paint behind me? Fortunately, I can change it without having to get approval from a landlord. That's right, in line with the great Australian dream, I've bought a house. Well, actually, it's a townhouse. Or is it a villa? Let's just say I've acquired a piece of real property with improvements made. There we go, settled, conveyancing jargon done for now. There are some serious conversations to have around the topic of housing, and it will be interesting to see how, if going from renting to owning, changes any of my perspectives personally on housing. As the channel name suggests, I still have a planning focused lens, and while the profession may mean different things to different people, I still firmly believe in exploring diverse housing options. Compared to Parkes, Orange has quite a bit more housing diversity, with a mix of freestanding, single household dwellings, townhouses or villa complexes, and small unit blocks, which is good to see, but there is always more room for more options to suit more needs and a more diverse range of budgets. And as I have called out previously, along with much of the planning profession, there is a significant need to provide further social and affordable housing options. Household budgets are tightening, and while there may be a labour shortage in some industries, which is perceived to drive wages growth, it hasn't necessarily translated into real wage growth for many, given the current inflation situation. And with interest rates going up, the squeeze that is impacting homeowners is certainly getting passed on to many renters as well. And they're feeling the pinch come next time they sign a lease agreement. I can't say as a now homeowner, I'm excited for rate increases, but I'm glad I ran my numbers before making the biggest financial decision I've made to date. Hopefully, my maths doesn't fail me when it comes to servicing a debt equivalent to several years of pre-tax salary. And that does lead me on to work. One of the great things that many organisations are starting to realise is that a hybrid working arrangement is a possibility for many non-operational roles. Purely working from home and purely working from an office both have upsides and downsides. But being able to match your work location to the tasks that you do provides a nice balance of flexibility for employees and the opportunity to maintain the important social aspects which come with a standard workplace. But thanks to the rise in hybrid arrangements or full working from home arrangements, many people have chosen to move further from their official place of work, with more people able to make more choices about where they live and how they live and work. Property pricing, particularly in picturesque regional locations like Orange, the Southern Highlands, and much of the New South Wales coast, has seen significant spikes. Lifestyle has always been this sort of property buzzword, but with flexibility on how and where people can work, demand for properties in these quite desirable locations has really increased over the last couple of years. In terms of making that sort of choice, I was actually pretty conflicted. But when it comes to having affinity for a place to live, lifestyle does matter. And for my stage of life, Parkes wasn't quite the right fit. Now, by no means do I want to move to somewhere full of like minded people with no cultural and social diversity, because quite frankly, that just sounds like an ad for a gated community on the Gold Coast. But it is nice to have a social circle that you can relate to. I think for parks, there is the appeal for families that I can quite clearly see. But for mid 20s, single, young professionals, we're quite a rare breed in that town. Orange was a good choice because it has a few options for entertainment and dining and going out and being a bit more social, other than the pub. And while I won't say no to a good palmy and a schooner or two, I do like choice, and sometimes a wine bar or a sushi restaurant is just what I'm looking for at the end of the week. Obviously, there is a substantial population difference between Parks and Orange, but I don't think you can put everything into that basket. And I think the greater diversity of industries in Orange also plays a big role in why the city has a lot to offer. Because if I was to compare Orange even with similarly sized regional cities like Bathurst and Dubbo, I think Orange has more to do, more leisure options, and a comparable or sometimes better range of services and retail offerings. I also like to go exploring on the weekends, and handily, Orange is fairly well connected. The Blue Mountains are about a 2 hour drive away, which as a day trip is fairly doable. There's a daily XPT service to Orange, which is quite handy if you need to get to Sydney the night before a flight or a function. And in addition to flights to Sydney, Orange Airport also has flights to Melbourne and Sydney. And of course, Orange has recently gained a bunch of new local bus services, which have been great for getting to and from the office. And if I really need to do some shopping and get some of the bigger things you can't always get in regional centres, the outskirts of Western Sydney are just under 3 hours away, which makes a big shopping day possible if I really need to do that. The extra regional connectivity is also really helpful for work, and it makes it easier to attend meetings and industry events, whether they be in Sydney or across more of the southern and western parts of the state, which is where plenty of the work I am doing originates from. With much of the Central West's future growth expected in the bigger cities like Bathurst, Orange, and Dubbo, being closer to these centres and closer to the Blue Mountains, which is the main way to access most of this region by road and rail, helps get a better picture of many of the eastern parts of this region. From Parks, that was quite a bit more difficult to do because almost any part of the Blue Mountains was about a 3 hour drive each way. On the whole, I'm really excited to call Orange home, and I'm really excited by the prospect of getting out and about and exploring more of the region again. Unfortunately, it didn't quite happen as much as I'd hoped when I was based in Parks, but maybe from Orange I'll get to enjoy a lot more of the Central West, Blue Mountains, and beyond. And I also have a car again now, but that's a topic for another time. So, if there are some more nuanced sort of planning and transport topics that you think might be really good to investigate, it could make for an interesting series, so let me know any ideas down below. I won't go into planning advice because you should always be doing your due diligence first, so if you're in that sort of boat, get in touch with your local planning authority or consider engaging a trusted consultant to assist you with that side of things. But there are plenty of fun topics that would be great to do a deep dive into. And whilst I enjoy transport reviews, because they are fun to produce and I do like travelling, they can really only go so far in providing information and best practice insights. So, thank you for joining me, and I will see you again soon.